The Galaxy On 7 Prime. Samsung's Galaxy On series seems to be Samsung's solution to combat the strong showing by brands like Xiaomi in the mid-range segment. So has Samsung learned anything from its Chinese competition? Except, not including earphones in the box, have they learned something? Is their latest on release, the On 7 Prime, worth your money? Well, let's find out in today's video. But before we do, if this is your first time here or in case you're too turned off by the On series to remember, my name's Ash, you're watching C4D Tech, and before we begin, if you've not checked out our latest giveaway, here's a card along with a link in the description. And while you're down there, do drop us a like, subscribe and turn on notifications. Let's now get started. The On 7 Prime feels like a phone from 2 years back in a lot of ways, and let me explain why. For starters, the build. At a time where brands are upping their games with build, whether it's with the narrow bezels or the premium glass back designs, Samsung's still being the same old Samsung from 2016, and the On 7 Prime looks unremarkable. Yes, there's metal to the back, but the top and bottom are made out of plastic, a design someone like Xiaomi abandoned almost 2 years back with the Redmi Note 3. Almost every brand now uses antenna lines, but not Samsung. Right from the lack of backlight for the capacitive keys, which again is unheard of in 2018, to the TFT panel, there are tons of compromises. The TFT panel. Now, there's something to talk about. At a time where brands are going with 18:9 panels for phones priced at this segment, Samsung has decided that it's a good idea to put a 16:9 panel, not even an AMOLED at that. I tried to look past it, but here they went with TFT instead of IPS, and that's even more of a corner cut. This 5.5-inch panel has a Full HD resolution, that's a good thing, but given that it's TFT, the viewing angles aren't as good as on any other phone, almost any other phone in this price segment, and Samsung makes no mention of what glass covers the display. Now again, I tried to look past it, but there's yet another omission. The auto brightness sensor. This trick of removing regular features to push people into buying more expensive phones, now that's getting really old. It was very annoying back in 2014, but to still do it today in 2018 feels almost like an insult to most people's intelligence. Now, talking about sensors, to quote one of you awesome people on Twitter, at a time where most brands are looking to go bezel-less, Samsung's trying their darnest to remain sensorless. There's absolutely nothing but the bare basic sensors here on this phone. Now again, I thought maybe, just maybe I'd look past this. I tried, and maybe I could have if the chip inside was different. It is okay to an extent, but again, this is an almost 2-year-old chip, the Exynos 7870. We saw it first way back in early 2016, and yay, it's back again here in 2018. Now, this is not a bad chip. It handles day-to-day tasks fine, even gaming, as long as it's not too intensive, shouldn't be a problem. There's 3 and 4 gig RAM options to go along with 32 and 64 gig storage options. But it's still a really old chip, and I wish Samsung would have used something a little newer. Anyway, let's now talk cameras. Under good lighting conditions, the 13 megapixel rear camera shoots images that have moderately high level of detail if you manage to capture them without blur, which honestly was not that easy to do with this phone. I had to capture everything 2 or 3 times to make sure at least one of the images was usable. Anyway, like I said, when you do get it right, you get images that look like this. Else, it's mostly images that look like this. Now, just to let that sink in, here are a few more examples. Moving on, the color reproduction is okay, the images are slightly cooler than they should be. At times, they also turned out underexposed. What I did like about these images is the fact that the background blur was quite strong. That's thanks in large to the wide f1.9 aperture. Dynamic range was okay, there is a dedicated HDR mode to help boost that dynamic range. Overall, considering the price, the outdoor performance is decent. Under low light settings though, this camera falls apart. In very dark scenes like the one you're looking at, the captured images were barely usable, poor detail levels and a ton of noise. There is a dedicated night mode which cranks up the ISO to 2500. A result of that, the images did look brighter, sure, but it also brought with it a ton more of noise. To be fair though, a few images did turn out usable. Now, even when we take price into account, the low light performance is just about meh. The camera does do well with videos though, that was a surprise. Yes, there's no 4K, but given that the 33,000 rupee A8 Plus didn't have 4K, we didn't go in expecting it to. The 1080p footage was surprisingly good. The color reproduction isn't the best, but look at how crisp this footage is. For the price segment, it's very sharp. That said, no EIS or OIS, so it is jittery. One more negative is the fact that the camera kept hunting for focus. No, it's not too bad, but definitely worth mentioning. The footage is definitely usable and it looks fairly good as well. Unfortunately, with selfies, things go back to bad. The 13 megapixel selfie camera on the On7 Prime produces images that aren't very sharp. Sundar's face and beard in these selfies look kinda smudged up, don't they? By the way, Samsung has included something called the selfie focus mode, which is basically portrait mode for selfies. Given that it's got just one camera, it's kind of different from the implementations on the A8 Plus. The edge reduction here isn't great. The background blur too looks kind of unnatural. It isn't uniform. Sometimes it even fails to blur a part of the background. So seems more of a gimmick than something really usable at this point. Now, it's not just the videos and image performance and a good light that are positives for this phone. There are a few others too. The side-wearing speaker, to name one, the placement's good, doesn't get muffled while gaming. Samsung's also retained the 3.5mm headphone jack and the audio output is again kinda okay. A notification LED, that's present, and the best part is that there is a dedicated microSD card slot. Now, talking about positives, the biggest positive for this phone has gotta be the battery life. The Exynos 7870 sips battery as we've seen in the past, so the 3300 mAh battery underneath on the On7 Prime, it had no issues getting me through a day of moderate usage on a single charge. I usually ended my day with 30 to 40% juice left on each of the 6 days I used this phone as my primary device. It's worth noting that there is no support for fast charging. Now, given all these corners cut, why does Samsung think you'd buy this phone? The answer is gimmicks. Now, talking about gimmicks, let's talk software. Start of 2018 and we are still getting a phone from Samsung with Android 7.1 Nougat. Samsung experience at least is at 8.5. Now remember, this phone is a starter phone from Samsung, so it is not gonna get Oreo, at least not before the S9 launch, and even then it is not high on Samsung's priority list for the Oreo update, so expect to wait quite a bit. Now, Samsung has included a bunch of gimmicks here. The first one was selfie focus. We've already seen and talked about that. The next one is Samsung Mall, basically an app which pulls in listings from other websites, and once you add stuff to cart, takes you to that website to pay. Basically, lets you do what you can with this other brilliant app that we all use. Wait for it. The app called Chrome. Yep. You could do the same, in fact, compare prices between a lot more stores by searching for the same on Chrome. Instead, Samsung wants us to use their app, Samsung Mall, so that they can eventually start making money off it. And here's the kicker. It's being marketed to us as a feature. I tried to not get annoyed about this, but seriously, Samsung, how stupid do you think we are? So anyway, next gimmick, visual search. So basically you point the camera at something and it deciphers what's in the image and lets you buy it. Now it's great in theory, but you know what? I'm not even gonna rant about it. I'm just gonna leave it at this. I tried pointing it at the On7 Prime's box and it didn't even bring up the On7 Prime. I rest my case. Anyway, other gimmicks include the depreciated version of Samsung Pay, something I really love, called Samsung Pay Mini, and the regular host of functions. Now, for all this, Samsung wants us to pay 15,000 rupees for the 464 variant and a couple of thousand lesser for the 332 variant. That begs the question, should you buy it? Should you? I mean, really, you're waiting for me to answer? Didn't I make my thoughts on it clear all through the video? Now guys, don't get me wrong, I know Samsung's a larger brand, Samsung's branding, the name Samsung itself is more valuable than say a Xiaomi. Probably Samsung's service centers are much better. I get all that. I don't expect Samsung to offer a phone as powerful as what Xiaomi would offer in the same segment. So that is why when something like the A8 Plus comes out, which is not as good as the OnePlus 5T or a Honor View 10, I still don't go ahead and say don't buy it. You know, yes, it might be a little overpriced, but it's a Samsung, right? Some people want to buy it for the branding or for the service and all that. But then there is a phone like the On7 Prime where Samsung's cut so many corners. You know what? Let's revisit the corners cut again. TFT panel, display protection, backlight keys, auto brightness sensor, NFC, well, the lack of all sensors, making this basically a sensor-free phone, a 2-year-old chip, the lack of a secondary noise cancelling microphone, I mean really no secondary noise cancelling microphone in 2018, half-functioning versions of Samsung Pay, a camera pro mode, Samsung Mall, and the regular old disabling of haptic feedback despite the phone having a vibration motor. I tried to understand why this phone exists. I tried to figure out why Samsung thinks we should care. I tried to like the On7 Prime, but it seems like I'm the only one trying. Samsung just didn't even turn up. Samsung just didn't try with the On7 Prime, and they just decided to let their marketing team market the out of this phone. I mean, you know what? My conclusion here, stay away, stay the hell away. You're better investing your money into something like the Mi A1, Honor 7X. Hell, even last year's Moto G5 makes a lot more sense to buy right now. So that's it for my 2 cents on the Galaxy On7 Prime. Do you agree with what I've had to say? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you think Samsung should care more about its consumers, drop this video a like, share it to spread awareness, and of course, subscribe and turn on notifications if you haven't yet. So that's it for now. Thanks a lot for watching. Till next time, my name's Ash. You've been watching C4E Tech. And I'm signing off for now. You guys have a great day. Bye-bye.